Hi, I'm Nicholeen Peck, and I teach all over the world about parenting, good communication, how to build strong family bonds, child development, and education, all through the lens of the principle self-government. And in this video, we're talking about autism. We're going to talk today about how to teach an autistic child at home. In this video, we're going to talk about key things that you can do structurally to make the environment ideal for an autistic child, and we're going to talk about how they might be processing the homeschooling environment. I taught 4 of my children at home. All of the rest of them actually went to the public school because 4 of them were biological children and I could homeschool them. The other children were all foster children and needed to attend the public school. But some of my foster children had ASD, and they had oftentimes ADHD and ODD along with their autism. And so I did work through the processing differences that autism can create with that neurodiversity, as well as doing homeschool as a family. So what does an autistic child need to be very successful? Well, one of the key things is structure and predictability. Now, everybody loves structure. You don't have to be autistic to recognize that structure has a lot of strength and power in it. When you know the structure that something, or the format that something's going to follow, it helps you better be able to solve your problems, stay focused, all of those types of things. So when you're setting up your homeschool environment for your autistic child, make sure that you keep in mind the need to be structured, but don't be so structured that your child will have a meltdown if things go off sometimes. It is important to also teach adaptability. Adaptability is something that every person learns, but it's a little bit more of a difficult lesson for a person who's more rigid in their thinking, like an autistic child. So what would you do in order to teach adaptability? Well, I recommend scheduling time, not content. I learned this from an education book years ago that I read at the beginning of my homeschooling journey called A Thomas Jefferson Education. And in this book, it talked about a lot of the different principles that you use to make a really great education. In fact, I think that the concept of scheduling time, not content was talked about a little bit in more detail in Oliver DeMille's second book called The Phases of Learning. You can find more about these books and other things related to how I homeschooled my children on my free website that has free resources called heartofhomeschool.net. So the whole idea behind scheduling time, not content is this: that you decide, okay, how much time do we need for, say, math every day? Well, maybe the child needs 20 minutes for math, or maybe it's 30 minutes for math. You determine based on where they're at developmentally. Then you say, every day at this time, so maybe it's 11 a.m., we are going to do 20 minutes of math and then have a 10-minute break. During that 20 minutes of math, do we have to get through a whole lesson? No. Do we even have to get through 1 or 2 problems? No. But we are going to spend the 20 minutes of time dedicated to learning how to think mathematically, even if it means we worked on the same problem the entire time. When you schedule your content like this, it helps you with the predictability for your autistic child. But when you don't have to get through a certain level of learning, it decreases the anxiety and makes it so that they can adapt to change with the lessons each day. This is going to be the same type of model that we would follow for history, English, whatever types of subjects that you would follow. I also recommend, just for your own sanity, that you don't try to do every single subject every day. They may do that at the school, but that's not necessarily the recipe for the very best learning. What I would do instead is I would decide which days of the week you do certain things. Maybe math happens every day and reading happens every day, but maybe history only happens twice a week. Maybe science happens once a week. Pick the time, schedule it in, stick to the time block, but keep in mind, you might not get everything done every single time. When you're working with an autistic child, it's important to pre-teach. The more pre-teaching that you can do, the more successful they will be. This means that if you have a subject matter coming up, such as we're going to work on science for this much time, then you might talk about exactly what you're going to do during the science time before that time even happens. That type of pre-teaching helps your autistic child format their brain so that they're prepared for what's coming. This may make them be a little bit more rigid sometimes, but it also helps decrease the anxiety so they know what to expect. Telling an autistic person ahead of time what's coming is just smart anyway, whether it relates to school or not. Another thing that we always did is we had mentoring journals for each of the children. These mentoring journals you can find at my website, teachingselfgovernment.com. They have calendaring pages in it, and they have sections dedicated to setting goals and making commitments in 4 areas of a child's development. So they're social development, personal development, academic development, and spiritual development. They talk through these areas of focus with mom and dad every single week. And there's some other fun things too that just make life more enjoyable. These meetings happened at our house every Sunday night after we had our other self-government meetings, which were the couples meeting and the family meeting, which I talk about in some of my other videos. And these were my children's favorite meetings because they got to have one-on-one time with mom and dad. And it felt really special. They got lots of attention and got to talk about the things that they wanted to do to mature personally. An autistic person loves to make plans for themselves. Now, as you make the plans, fill out the weekly schedule, they are going to get a little bit more rigid, but just make sure that you can stick to it. Now, what about those days when things don't go exactly right? Well, you're going to want to pre-teach whenever you can if something is going to change. Help them prepare to accept a no answer and drop the subject if things don't go the way that you first planned them out to be. That's just smart when working with anyone with autism. There's a lot more about self-government that I could cover, and you can use all of it with ASD people. That video that you'll want to listen to next is called The Not So Known Secret for Parenting Success. Go ahead and click on that video next. I'll see you there.